Hey everybody, welcome into Redacted. I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natalie Morris.
And on this show, we tend to cover the news the mainstream media largely ignores. We try to see our way through all of the massive amounts of propaganda that are being heaped on you right now. And nothing is bigger than the amount of propaganda being heaped on you with massive false flags as it relates to Iran and Israel. The United States desperately wants to bring us into a war with Iran. The number of false flags that we are seeing over the past 24 hours are pretty large, including the Trump campaign. We're going to be talking about the nuclear submarines, of course, that are headed now to this region. There are sources, of course, in Israel who believe that a massive attack could happen within the next few hours. So we are all eyes on what's happening right now in the Middle East. And I'll ask you guys in the chat, should American soldiers be sent to the Middle East in order to defend Israel? Attacks on American soldiers over the past 24 hours. So let us know in the comments.
Plus, American voters now say that they trust Kamala Harris to fix the economy. Based on what? I don't know. Also, why hasn't she done it thus far? She is currently in power. I'm not sure about that. We're going to take a look at the latest polls and why the media is pushing Kamala Harris as an economic savior. That story, it's as thin as, I don't know, phyllo dough. That's all I came up with.
I would have thought ice. Your mind goes to phyllo dough. Yeah, like she's going to be the one to save us from the Bidenomics. Like that's literally the argument they're making right now. So we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about the Biden coup. You know, we heard from President Biden over the weekend. We also heard from Nancy Pelosi. And now we know that, in fact, there was a Democratic coup to oust President Biden from the campaign. Will it go even further and pull him back from actually resigning the office of the presidency? So who signed the document? Who signed the letter? It wasn't him. And who's currently running the United States government sending warships to the Middle East? It's not him. So who is actually running the show? We're going to talk about all of that and more as Redacted starts right now. Good to see all of you guys on a Monday. Hope you guys are doing well. We do have a daily newsletter. I like to think of it now as kind of our lunchtime newsletter. So go to redacted.inc, sign up. You can read it over your lunch break, with the kids back to school and everything. We kind of try to get it out in the morning, but it depends on how, the kids getting off to school. Natalie and I write the newsletter together and we publish it. Just a two-person operation as it relates to the newsletter, but we like to think of it as a great newsletter. Great way to stay connected with you first thing in the morning. Go to redacted.inc, put in your email address, then click confirm in an email that we send to you, and you'll receive the email with a couple of stories. What else do we cover in there? Like things you missed? Yeah,
and I try really hard to make sure that you have original sources to the things that we're going to talk about in the show and not biased sources, because it's not a prerequisite that you agree with us. We want you to make your own informed opinion. So it's a great place to not only get those original sources and do your own reading and things like that. A friend of mine who reads the newsletter said it has been an adjustment that it comes later in the day since we moved time zones recently in our family, and our kids now are back to school. So yeah, it is a bit later in the day depending on our schedule, but we're working parents. So we're parents working. Parents come first and working comes second in our house.
Yeah, so it now falls right in the middle of like my busy time of day, and so I don't get to read it till after the show now, as opposed to before. But I've adjusted.
We apologize. Thank you.
Yeah, it's okay.
Well, bookmark it. All right, and read it later. All right. Well, we are at a tipping point moment for all-out massive war in the Middle East. This is exactly, of course, what Benjamin Netanyahu has been dreaming about for years, dreaming about this moment. Sources I've spoken to inside Israel today believe a massive attack could be coming as early as tonight from Iran. One journalist I spoke to in Syria this morning says Syrians are sitting on pins and needles right now, because they know that war means they will be attacked by Israel. Israel will attack Syria. The Syrian military is preparing. Russia has been preparing to protect Syria. They've been shooting down drones and missiles over Syria. And the U.S. government desperately wants to join a new war. This meme, I think, says it all. Take a look. America, no, honey, you have to finish your Ukraine before you can have any Iran. This, of course, is why Zelensky in Ukraine is ramping up attacks inside the Russian territory. And as of Sunday, Ukraine attacked the largest nuclear power plant in Europe. Ukraine set fire to the cooling facility, of course, that controls the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. The Western media immediately blamed Russia. It was Putin that did it, that attacked his own power plant. that his forces have been controlling for the past 2 years. But you're not stupid. You are not sheep that follow the corporate media.
Well, what the corporate media responded by saying, well, Zelensky said they're trying to blackmail me. They're trying to blackmail Kiev. So Zelensky says that Russia bombed its own nuclear power plant to cause a nuclear fallout in its own territory to blackmail Ukraine. Does that make any sense? I don't bomb my own house when I'm in a negotiation with somebody else. That's very strange.
Yeah, that's ridiculous, of course. You're not stupid, though, and you won't fall for it. But, I mean, literally the mainstream media runs with these headlines, and then people are sitting there reading, the BBC, or they're watching, reading the Telegraph or whatever, these other newspapers. Like, wow, yeah, Putin, he just blew up his own nuclear power plant. I mean, you have to be stupid. I guess like he also blew up his own Nord Stream pipeline. Again, idiots out there. So Zelensky's desperate move to say, hey, I know that you're about to go to war with Iran. Pay attention to me. Don't forget about me. Well, now they've literally forgotten about you because Vladimir Putin earlier today in a speech announced, we are done negotiating with Kiev. So you got your wish. You made your bed. Now lie in it. And he says a massive response is coming to Ukraine. So again, you move into the Kursk region. You launch attacks against the nuclear power plant. All right. Instead of negotiating peace, they're done. Over the past few hours, the United States has sent the USS Georgia, a nuclear submarine, to the Middle East. They've also just sent F-22 fighter jets to the region, and as CBS News reports, a lot more.
Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says a guided missile submarine is being deployed to the Middle East as tensions between Israel and Iran continue to grow. The Pentagon says it has also ordered an aircraft carrier strike group to speed up its arrival to the region. The leaders of France, Germany, and the UK are all urging Israel and Hamas to negotiate a permanent ceasefire.
So just take a look at your screen. Here are the most recent U.S. Navy assets in the Middle East. It's pretty startling, and it's growing it's growing right now by the hour. I love that the USS Cole is there. Remember what happened to the USS Cole? We're sending the USS Cole right back to Yemen where it was attacked years ago. Man, that's bravado. And the Houthi rebels would love nothing more than to attack American soldiers and American ships, and they plan to. They've openly said they're going to if the United States involves itself. And they have. So, again, Americans are sitting ducks at the moment. American soldiers sitting there. I just saw someone in the chat say, hell no, I don't want my son going to that region, fighting and dying for this, so Netanyahu can get his war against Iran. So this is in addition to any large naval assets just moved to the region in the past few weeks: Marine expeditionary units, U.S. aircraft carriers, battle cruisers, nuclear submarines. Axios reporting overnight that, yes, Iran is about to attack Israel. This according to Axios. New Israeli intelligence suggests Iran prepares to attack Israel within days, says sources. The Israeli intelligence community's updated assessment is that Iran is poised to attack Israel directly in retaliation for the assassination of Hamas's political leader in Tehran, and is likely to do so within days, two sources with direct knowledge of the issue. But at the bottom of the screen here, Israeli Minister Yoav Gallant spoke on Sunday with U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, told him that Iranian military preparations suggest Iran is getting ready for a large-scale attack, a source with knowledge of the call said.
So you would think then, because we're reading this and we're astute readers, you would say, maybe they shouldn't have done that? Do they think they maybe shouldn't have attacked inside a sovereign nation to get a Hamas leader? Maybe they should apologize. Maybe
these
they should
assassinations.
Yeah, maybe they should talk down from that and say, "Oh, we're sorry we did that. We really thought this guy was a hot target. We needed him."
No.
Is there and like we don't get that?
They wanted.
Right.
Yes.
They got exactly what they wanted.
Right.
They told
Why would they
Santa
apologize?
what they wanted for Christmas, and they got it.
And here's Santa arriving with U.S. aircraft carriers and American forces and weapons and money. So again, listen to what Benjamin Netanyahu has said for years in front of the United States Congress, asking us to go to war with Iran. He did so just a few weeks ago, for crying out loud. Pay it. And then in private meetings, we now know from sources in private meetings, Netanyahu was meeting on Washington in Capitol Hill with senators, high-level members of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, basically prepping for this war. That's why he was there. He wasn't there to do like a speech in front of Congress. That was a piece of it in order to get more money and PR. But of course, the real deal was the meetings behind the scenes, of course. So it's coming. But they need you. They need you to be American sheep right now. They're hoping that you will be, to support American forces being used as cannon fodder to protect Israel. They're depending on you being sheep. That's what they want. Overnight, American forces were hurt in Syria. Why the hell are Americans illegally in Syria? As Congressman Matt Gaetz has tried to get us out of there, asking that question, why the hell are we there? U.S. personnel wounded in attack against base in Iraq, officials say. That's, again, in addition to where Americans were hurt. We don't know initially if the U.S. Why the hell are Americans illegally in Syria? Who attacked them? Well, we don't know. Initially, the U.S. tried to hide the attack and said no Americans were hurt. Well, now we know that that's not true. They had to admit now overnight, yes, multiple Americans were hurt. In fact, they may have traumatic brain injuries. Oh, Americans with traumatic brain injuries. Again, why are they there? You sick bastards who put American forces in Syria illegally. And now they're being attacked, used as cannon fodder. Again, I ask you, you can say whatever you want about it. You can say, I don't give a rat's about any of these other countries right now. I care about Americans being used as cannon fodder in someone else's war games. And that's exactly what's happening, you sick bastards, putting these men there right now, using Americans as bait to draw us into a full Middle Eastern war. Get out now, because they're sending more Americans to die in Netanyahu's war. That's exactly what's happening. U.S. personnel wounded in attack against base in Iraq. This comes just days after American forces were wounded in Iraq. Again, why are they in Iraq? Get out now, please. Congressman Thomas Massey just posted this on X. On August 10th, he said, Biden, the deep state, are just itching to get us into a serious conflict with Iran. We have to tell them no. No. Remember that Massey is one of the only members of the United States Congress not paid for by the Israeli lobby. That might rub some people the wrong way, but it's the truth. So he's allowed to say this because he's not controlled. Like we are. Like we get to say what we want because we're not controlled opposition. And over the weekend, the United States media and political elite started going into overdrive, manufacturing consent for war against Iran, claiming that the latest assassination attempt on President Trump came from Iran. Pakistani man with ties to Iran charged in foiled assassination plot potentially targeting Trump, DOJ says. Oh, Biden's Department of Justice says that Iran is behind the attack plan. You guys should believe everything the DOJ says, right? You guys, I'm sure, believe everything the Biden Department of Justice says. They came immediately. They're tied to Iran. Okay, this guy, Pakistani man, who is controlled by Iran, is hiring assassins to hit Trump again. Okay, sure. Because of the Soleimani assassination during the Trump years, that they're not over that retribution, and we're coming after you. Right. So again, don't fall for this propaganda, guys. Netanyahu wants nothing more than for every one of you right now watching to be sheep, for you to want a war with Iran. That's why he came to the United States a few weeks ago, pushing for a war with Iran, held private meetings on the plans for attacking Iran. He wants you on board with this, and the PR campaign is strong. If you thought, this is just some corrupt Biden administration trying to drag us into war with Iran, not so fast. Remember that there is a uniparty in the United States. It's not just the Biden administration. It is the neocons in the Republican Party who are salivating at this. Salivating. The Trump campaign is actively also trying to scare you into hating Iran. Over the past few hours, the Trump campaign says their campaign servers were hacked by Iran. Okay? Really? Former President Donald Trump's campaign said this weekend in a statement that it has been hacked. Okay, these documents were obtained illegally from foreign sources hostile to the United States. Okay, Trump spokesman said, pointing specifically to Iran, ramping up their attempts to hack their campaign. With no proof, just it's a foreign source. You should think about this. Most likely Iran. Yeah, just jump to Iran. Right. Just immediately it's Iran. A Trump spokesman said Iran ramped up their attempts to hack their campaign. And right away, this is bullshit. Of course, the New York Times agrees with the Trump campaign. The hackings of presidential campaigns begins with usual fog of motives. Yeah, and Trump says Iranians hacked campaign, but only obtained publicly available data. Okay. The moment I saw this story, I thought it was a pile of bullshit. It smelled like a big pile of steaming bullshit. And that Iran hacked the Trump campaign. Okay, sure. Not quite. Even DC Drano, who is the biggest Trump supporter in the world, called BS on this. Let's call this what it truly is. The CIA hacked Trump, not Iran, he writes. Or at the very least, CISA and the CIA allowed Iran to hack Trump. Either way, we all know who's at fault here. The same deep state that Trump has promised to destroy and prosecute when he's back in power. Even Trump friend Roger Stone called BS on the Iran hacking story. I think they should get on the same page. Iranian assassination plot against Trump, my ass, he writes. FBI disinformation so they can conveniently blame the Iranians if there is another attack on Trump. Oh, and the Iranians are also behind the hack of the Trump campaign. Not so clever. Pray for President Trump's safety. Here is Roger Stone in his own words. Listen.
Suddenly, the FBI announces they've uncovered an Iranian plot to kill Trump. This to me smells like a setup. So that if there is another attack on Trump of any kind, a road bomb, a drone, or God forbid another bullet, well, then they can conveniently blame the Iranians.
Right. So they're going to be blaming the Iranians. Sure. J.D. Vance, upon immediately being chosen, of course, was out there first. Yeah, we got to hit Iran hard. So there's a uniparty right now, and I don't know that the Trump campaign, all these pieces are on the same page, because you literally have like Trump surrogates saying it's not the Iranians. Like, it's not them. Come on, get your heads out of your asses.
Well, I mean, it very well could be, but we have not seen proof. So where's the proof?
It could be Martians as well.
Right. In the same way that we had proof that Russia was preparing an attack on the United States at the beginning of 2022, because the State Department said so. They were planning something bad, right? So again, where is the proof? It is just too convenient of a narrative when we know that the powers that be want war with Iran on the heels of war with Russia, and preferably both at the same time at the expense of your loved ones.
So we are being played like a fiddle right now, guys. Bottom line. And they're using false flags to drive us into war with Iran, defending Israel with American lives. So don't be sheep. Don't fall for it. And what I'm really worried about is over the next 24, 48 hours, they're going to using even bigger false flags. Just forget the Trump campaign hacked story. Most Americans really probably don't care. You're going to need something bigger. They tried, this guy was a Pakistani. He's Iranian backed. He's trying to kill Trump again. So you should all hate Iran. No, they got to try something bigger. Like, I'm talking like USS Liberty bigger. Like, we got all these warships in the Middle East now. What if Iran mysteriously attacks one of those warships? Remember the Maine, remember the Gulf of Tonkin. Let's go after those Iranians. Let's attack them. So I'm just really, really worried right now that they're going to be using this as a false flag to drag us into a deeper Middle Eastern war.
Not for the first time.
Yeah, not for the first time.
Well, we have more news to get to. We're going to talk about why the media is framing Kamala Harris as this economic genius. Where'd that come from? They say she's going to fix it. Your grocery bills are too high, but she's got an answer. She just hasn't used that answer since she's been in power, but she will. That's what they're saying. We're also going to talk about the Biden coup, which has been confirmed by the people we thought actually did it. So that's weird. Plus Raygun, the Olympic breakdancing, not champion, last place winner of last place. We're going to talk about this, not because it's fun to talk about, which I'm going to admit it has been, because I spent a lot of time on those memes this weekend, but also, is this a sign that maybe liberal white women should stop getting degrees in the humanities for entree into cultural spaces that maybe they don't belong? Is there a narcissism of university that led to this? We're going to talk about that. And I think there's a place for this discussion. Clayton and I had an argument about it. He didn't want to do this piece, and I really did. So please stick around for the last segment of the show today.
Show her that you care about Raygun.
Because otherwise Clayton won't let me do any more segments about this. So please stay till the breakdancing
Raygun.
Yes.
I mean, it's been all the talk.
I feel like it has to be done.
Yeah.
Someone's got to do it, and I'm going to do it. But first,
it's no secret that the media has a massive liberal bias, since they cover stories fit with a specific liberal narrative and ignore tons of important issues. That's why they're out of touch with what really matters to ordinary Americans. And that's why our sponsor, Ground News, that's where they come in. Ground News is an app and a website that I use every day. Gathers related articles from around the world in one place. You can compare the coverage to figure out the spin on any given media story. I mean, just look at the Iranian hack story right now. you can see the spin coming from liberal media on, it was clearly the Iranians and neoconservative news sources. It's amazing to see the spin. And that's the brilliance of ground news. It lets you look closer at different topics. Ground news gives instant access to more than 700 articles reporting on any particular news story. For instance, if you're looking up the Trump assassination story or anything else, you can see like hundreds of sources related to that one particular story. And you're going to get context on each publication's political bias, factuality based on how subjective or objective their language is, and even who's funding these news sources. It's great. I love it. So anyway, I want you to check it out right now. Go to ground.news/redacted, not .com. It's ground.news/redacted. You can use the QR code that's right there on your screen, and you'll get 40% off their Vantage subscription, which will give you unlimited access to all their analysis features. But we use it here at Redacted every day. It's a great way to source information and see the bias and who's funding a lot of these different media outlets. That's why we love independent media so much, because they don't have that funding from billionaires. Get 40% off, unlimited access right now. Go to ground.news/redacted.
Well, here is proof that the liberal media wants Kamala Harris to win the presidency. A new poll shows that more voters trust Vice President Kamala Harris to handle the economy than former President Trump. You guys, why?
That dog doesn't think so.
I ask you, who can explain this? How can people trust her to fix the economy when she is currently in office and her administration has ruined the economy? Why would people give her this benefit of the doubt? Here is what we're going off as voters. Last week, a reporter asked her what she would do about inflation, and she just reiterated that inflation is a problem.
What else are you going to do to fix this problem with inflation?
All right, thank you. Well, let's start with this. Prices have gone up, and families and individuals are dealing with the realities of that bread costs more, that gas costs more. And we have to understand what that means. That's about the cost of living going up. That's about having to stress and stretch limited resources. That's about a source of stress for families that is not only economic, but is on a daily level, something that is a heavy weight to carry. So it is something that we take very seriously, very seriously. And we know from the history of this issue in the United States that when you see these prices go up, it has a direct impact on the quality of life for all people in our country. So it's a big issue, and we take it seriously. And it is a priority, therefore.
Okay, so, I don't really relate to her. Yeah, as a mom of three.
It's just like, well, what do you plan on doing about the border crisis? Well, the border is the edge of our country. It's where our country is separated from either Canada or Mexico. I think you're talking about Mexico, and that's where the border is at. Like, thanks.
Yeah.
Therefore,
what are you going to do about it?
Take it seriously.
We'll take it seriously. I'm going to do that the next time you ask me, like, hey, can you take the
recycling to the curb?
Yeah, can you take the laundry upstairs? And recycling is an issue. Recycling is important.
And it does go to the curb.
And it does go to the curb.
You're right.
And when I see it sitting in the garage and it's not at the curb, I know it's an issue.
Yeah.
And therefore, it should belong at the curb.
I am aware.
Not in the garage.
That it needs to be rolled.
I'm not going to do it.
To the curb.
I'm not going to do it. But I know that it's there and it needs to go to the curb.
Right. So that's what we're going off of, you guys. This is the information that has bolstered the confidence of voters to say that she is better equipped to handle the economy than President Trump. And at a rally over the weekend, she even said that the economy is good by many measures. By many measures. She didn't give us those metrics, but she says it's good. But she says she will fix food prices when she is president.
We believe in a future where we lower the cost of living for America's families so that they have a chance not just to get by, but to get ahead. Because while our economy is doing well by many measures, prices for everyday things like groceries are still too high. You know it and I know it. You know, when I was Attorney General, I went after price-fixing schemes. And when I am president, it will be a day one priority to fight to bring down prices.
Oh,
okay.
Good. I mean,
now, two things about that. Number one, when she says you know it and I know it, I don't feel like we are bosom buddies who go to the market for our families. I'm sorry, but that relating to me like that, it doesn't work. Don't do it. Number two, why wait, girl? Why wait until you're president? You are currently in power, in office. Shouldn't you just do this now if you've got such a great plan? Or do you hate Joe Biden so much that you can't put your great plan in action while he's in office? And also, you may be out of office in just a few short months. So if you actually cared about people, you would set that plan in motion right now. So I don't understand why those people are applauding. Do you?
No, I don't at all. I mean, all you need to do is go to the grocery store. We went shopping the other night, like at a Kroger, right?
Yeah.
And get our groceries. And we were like, and we didn't get that much. We got like a couple bags.
Yeah.
And it was like
$300.
$300.
And you were like, that was $300?
Like, what the hell did we get? We got like cheese and eggs and,
right,
cottage cheese. And I was like, what in the hell?
Well, in the defense of that bill, I did get a $50 Amazon gift card for the pet sitter that our dog ran away on. So
okay.
It should have been $250.
And I did, to be fair, I did buy some kitchen shears as well. So that was like $10.
Okay,
but
right.
Nevertheless, I was still like, we had like 3 bags. Because
it wasn't I need to tell my joke because I needed to apologize. I put a note in the mail, PAW, because our dog ran away on this pet sitter and ruined her weekend. Anyway, so that was an aside.
We were in California, for my son's birthday, and
Get
anyway,
it? Paul, PAW. Anyway. Okay. Anyway, so yes, this is all part of the rebranding of Kamala Harris as this economic genius. Historian Victor Davis Hanson laid this out over the weekend, and I thought it was worth playing this bit from the Daily Signal.
Left to make the argument that he couldn't step down even if he was decrepit because Kamala Harris was inept, and then suddenly she was remanufactured as brilliant, and she was then coronated, wiping out 15 million votes in the primary. So it was all a confused tumult, and out of that tumult, she emerged as young, brilliant, at least the media, and she adopted the same methodology that Biden had found successful in 2020. She's going to stay in the basement. She cannot speak extemporaneously like Biden could not.
Okay. Are we falling for this? She's being recast as young and brilliant. We did not think this collectively. Nobody thought this before she took over this ticket. Am I missing something? Am I on glue? How did this happen out of the blue? And she's had the answers all this time, but she kept them to herself because. So, okay, let's look at the poll that the Financial Times and the University of Michigan Ross School of Business gives us. So let's look at this bit by bit. Regardless of your opinion of the candidates, how would you vote for president or how you would vote for president? Who would you trust most to handle the economy? So as of August 2024, by 42%, voters are trusting Kamala Harris. Based on what? I do not know. Airheads. I don't know. 41% are choosing Donald Trump, and then a bunch of people are choosing neither. Now, who do you trust? This is interesting to handle issues with China. More people trust trust Donald Trump than Kamala Harris. I guess that's not really surprising. Let's go to question 15. If Donald Trump wins the presidency, do you think his economic policies will leave you financially? And more people are saying better. 42% say more people think that Donald Trump presidency will leave them better off. But then look at question 16. Do you think Kamala Harris presidency will leave you better off? Well, 33% say better off, 38% say worse off. So it seems like a very skewed result, because if most people are saying that a Trump presidency would leave them better off, fewer people are saying Kamala Harris. I don't understand. Maybe they didn't understand the question. You see how this is incongruent? The question 15 and 16 indicate that more people think that a Trump presidency would leave them better off. So then why are they choosing Kamala Harris overall when she loses questions 15 and 16? It does not make sense. It says to me that the media is pushing this narrative. Let me know if you can think of anything else. Now, another question asked if she should take a different approach to the Biden administration. And again, this question to me is fundamentally flawed because it says to me that they're asking you to separate her from the Biden-Harris administration, which is now, we're in it. How can you do that? They're telling you that you can, basically. And voters are saying, oh, yes, she can take a different approach, or that she could. In fact, 60% say that she should, which means to me that they think that she would. I don't understand why we're pretending we've got a new candidate out of this, when of course we don't. Here's how economist Peter St. Onge put it today.
That means a lot is riding on the next election. If media manages to haul Kamala over the line, we get Bidenomics double time all the way down. If, on the other hand, Trump pulls through, going by 2016, we could get out of recession a lot faster with a lot less pain.
Okay, now the economy, I would say, speaks for itself under Joe Biden, as it did under President Trump. Trump's policy was to stimulate business with tax cuts and encourage unemployment and growth. Did he shrink government? No. Did he shrink the military? No. But at the very least, we had fewer escalations of foreign wars. Biden's policy is that you should have less because of the environment, that your tax dollars should fund foreign wars and the government should drive employment through government expansion. That's where we currently are. And yet we still get headlines like this as if Kamala Harris is this revolutionary when really she's said and done nothing new at all. Are we that dumb? Or do we give her a hard pass for a shit job during the Biden administration? Now, a lot of people will go ahead and do that because she's been rebranded. She's New Coke, right? She's Coke Light. She's whatever. It's rebranded. I got it. But a lot of people won't. Now, I saw this today and I thought I would share it from former Black Lives Matter activist Xavier DeRusso. He says that he can't believe he's typing this to you. After being a leftist his entire life, his brother is now voting for Trump because he said as a business owner, resources and capital were more accessible under Trump. And as a father, he refuses to let his kids be indoctrinated with gender theory and victim mentality. He says both of us has now finally seen through the lies of the Democratic Party and they feel free. Now, I relate to this. I resonate with this because of the actual issues here. This economy, to my mind as a voter, will take opportunities from my children. The Democrats are all about enabling perverts. I do not want to participate in race and gender conversations as my kids are floated off to war in a draft, and the economy. But the Democrats are trying to tell you that the economy is fine and Harris has an even better, brilliant new plan. So if you are falling for this rebranding of Kamala Harris as a brilliant economist, please tell me why. Please tell me what I have missed. What has she said that makes you think that you're better off, that she can better handle the economy? I really want to know. I want to know what I've missed. So leave it in the comments below.
Well, we've got more news to get to here on your Monday. We're going to talk about what is going on with this Biden coup. Over the weekend, we heard from Nancy Pelosi and President Biden himself on what actually happened to throw him off of the campaign and the deep state, machinations that have been working behind the scenes to get him removed from office. We now have confirmation of that, and it is deeply disturbing. Are we about to hit a repeat of 1968 at the Democratic Convention, which is about to unfold in Chicago? We'll get there in a second. But first, a few super chats here. 1984 Sarajevo, thank you so much for your super chat, says Netanyahu is the true president of the United States. Yes, right. I mean, who's running the government right now? It's Netanyahu in the United States. The Senate applauds a convicted war criminal who's prepared to fight to the last American. This is the stuff of a horror thriller. Yes, exactly. So thank you for your super chats as well. You can keep them coming. throughout the show. But hey, I don't know if you saw, just look at gold prices. Holy smokes right now. Gold prices, why are they surging? Why is gold surging right now? Do we know that like an imminent war is about to unfold in the Middle East and people want the safety of precious metals? Yeah, hitting new all-time highs today, up 41.02, up 1.69% today. Significantly over the past 6 months, it's up 22%, the price of gold, precious metals. Again, this is why we're such big believers in investing in precious metals in our family, making sure that we have those precious metals, because it is a store of value. For you take a US dollar and you convert it to precious metals, at least you have that preservation of your US dollar, your preservation of wealth. A US dollar losing value as we were about to hit rate cuts in September, and multiple rate cuts, 100 central banks around the world about to slash rates. So get ready for the US dollar to go down even further in value. That's why our friends at Lear Capital can help you get set up investing in gold and silver, putting that in your portfolio. They can even help you get set up with it. If you have an old IRA laying around, or an old 401k laying around, maybe you left one from another job and it's still sitting there. A lot of people, when they leave jobs, they leave their 401ks just like sitting there. They can actually convert it into a self-directed account, which will let you invest in precious metals or anything you want. You can invest in stocks, real estate, but you have control, not Wall Street. And they're fantastic. Our friends at Lear can help you get set up with that. Right now, they have a $3,200 gold kit because they believe gold will hit a price tag of $3,200 an ounce. Right now, it's at $2,400 an ounce as of today. $2,400 an ounce of gold. They believe it's going to hit $3,200 an ounce. UBS has a price target, also over $3,000 an ounce. So you can go right now to Lear Capital and call their 800 number, 1-800-613-3557, to give them a call. You'll talk with an American. They don't outsource their call center to India or some other place. You'll speak to actual Americans that can help you get set up investing in precious metals, or just go to their website, LearRedacted.com, to get that $3,200 gold report. $3,200 gold report. You can read all about why they think this price target is coming. LearRedacted.com is the place to go. So our thanks to Lear for supporting Redacted here. All right, super chats pop in here. Nice to see new members. By the way, Elizabeth Falconer is a new member. Thank you for becoming a Redacted Rebel. If you subscribe to the channel while we're here live, your name will pop up here on the big screen right there on the show. So you please subscribe to the channel.
Please do.
Please do. Or on Rumble, wherever you're watching us. We're live on Rumble. We're live on YouTube and X as well. Donald Trump coming back to X today.
Yeah.
He came back earlier today, and within just an hour had 8 million views, his post.
And there'll be a live today. We're going to talk about tomorrow how the European Union is very worried about X not censoring the live preemptively. Okay, Europe.
I mean, calling on Elon Musk to censor Donald Trump's speech. The European Union, I mean, this is what happened to Europe. They really want the censorship. I mean, the massive industrial complex of censorship in Europe is sickening. They sent a letter. Thierry Breton sent a letter to Elon Musk, please censor President Trump's speech on X.
Very worried what he's going to say.
Who do you think you are, Europe? All right. Well, we now know conclusively that Joe Biden was forced out of the race thanks to a coup that placed Kamala Harris in his place. And we are heading for a repeat of 1968 at the Democratic Convention, where the leading candidate at the time, Bobby Kennedy, was assassinated, of course, replaced by a candidate no one wanted, and who didn't receive any votes. More on that part in a second. But first, let's start with the new cover of Time Magazine today. Can you believe that? Here's the new Time Magazine cover. If you're listening to the podcast version of our show, which we have an audio version of our show, you can podcast it. It's the Time Magazine. It shows a hand-sketched Kamala Harris, over some sort of a civil rights imagery at the bottom.
Oh, is that what that is?
I can't really quite tell what that is. It's people I don't know, Black Lives Matter or something. I don't know. I can't really see it.
She's surrounded by people who are holding up her signs.
Yeah, Harris. Okay. All right. But the enthusiasm, and it says her moment. It's her moment. That's the cover of Time Magazine. The coronation is unbelievable ahead of the DNC. It's happening in real time. It's her moment. As a friend of the show, Glenn Greenwald, writes today, the way the U.S. corporate media transformed Kamala Harris from a national embarrassment to a transformative pioneer overnight, without even pretending to care about anything that she thinks or believes, is a powerful testament to how potent the science of propaganda is. Yes. From fake CGI-generated crowds to fake photos of thousands of adoring fans, the propaganda machine is on overdrive. This is also why no one can find Harris or Waltz right now. They're not doing interviews. Keep them away from the cameras. They're being kept away from mainstream media. They're not doing ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, all of their favorite channels. They're not doing any of it right now. No interviews, no tough questions from reporters. By the way, J.D. Vance did a whole slew of interviews this weekend. He got tough questions the whole time. He can take tough questions, regardless of how you feel about it. He can take tough questions. But apparently Kamala Harris and Governor Waltz cannot. Instead, the legacy media is doing the defending for them, like Molly Jong-Fast, who says Kamala is so well-liked. She's so good at speaking that she's an Obama-level orator. Listen.
Yeah, I think it's a really good campaign, and people really like her. She's gotten to be a really gifted Obama-level orator, and, she was very much underestimated by the mainstream media. And quite frankly, she has command. You hear her up there, and she is confident, she is calm, and she is commanding. And for whatever reason, America is ready for her, which is very exciting. I would also say Trump has been using these same attacks against 3 different presidential candidates. Against Harris, against Biden, and against Hillary. And they just don't necessarily, you can do it once or twice, but the third time it really feels recycled.
Yeah.
Okay. The media underestimated her. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
because
they really did.
She was busy, hitting home runs in the background. We just missed it.
I mean, you had everyone from Stephen Colbert to Jimmy Kimmel to you even had CNN out there talking about how Kamala Harris's approval ratings were the lowest they've ever seen, that she's abysmal, she's awful, that she's a drag.
No, you didn't think that.
She's a drag on the ticket, all of those things. Even Jimmy Kimmel did a whole musical number where they had a symphony playing that she was dead. Jimmy Kimmel.
Right.
Really? Okay, so the media just got it wrong, I guess. And now this whole revival in the past few weeks, she's like Jesus. It's amazing. Meanwhile, we now know officially that Joe Biden was forced out by the Democratic elites, President Obama. How do we know this exactly? Well, we first had the reporting by Seymour Hersh on all of this, right? But then President Biden told us this weekend.
Look, the polls we had showed that it was a neck-and-neck race. Would have been down to the wire. But what happened was a number of my Democratic colleagues in the House and Senate thought that I was going to hurt them in the races. And I was concerned if I stayed in the race, that would be the topic. You'd be interviewing me about why did Nancy Pelosi say, why did someone, and I thought it'd be a real distraction.
But shouldn't we have had that choice?
Yeah.
That was up to us, not to you.
The voters voted for him. So wait a minute. President Obama can come in and invoke the 25th Amendment, threaten the 25th Amendment, as Seymour Hersh had reported a few weeks ago. That's now confirmed. Nancy Pelosi, a part of this cabal to unseat a sitting president from the campaign, a person who had won all of the nomination process and the delegates were fully in his camp. You can just do that? Just get on the phone and threaten them with the 25th Amendment?
And what does it say of their platform if a weak president can take the rug out from under Democratic senators and Congress representatives? That means they don't actually believe in their platform. They're only playing a game for power.
Right, exactly. But who wrote that resignation letter, right? Because if it wasn't, was it Joe Biden? Because a lot of people believed at the time, we reported at the time, first of all, this isn't even on official White House letterhead. That doesn't sound like him. Who wrote this? That's not even his signature. Who wrote his resignation letter? Here, again, who signed this thing? Signatures are completely different from his executive orders that he signed over the past few weeks. Whose signature is that? It's not his signature. Well, who signed it? Nancy Pelosi also doesn't believe Joe Biden wrote it or even signed it.
That's about as close as I got to 4D.
I didn't accept the letter as anything but a letter. I mean, there are some people who were unhappy with the letter. Let me say, some said that some people were unhappy with the letter. I'll put it in somebody else's mouth because it was I don't even know. It didn't sound like Joe Biden to me. It really didn't. So, but
Didn't really?
Then who wrote it? Who's running the United States of America? Why is there not more outrage about this? I mean, why are we one of the only shows talking about this? Who's running the country right now? You're doing an interview with the President of the United States who was forced out by a deep state cabal, right?
And we're heading into war. We need to know who's leading right now.
I mean, everyone wants to talk about, does J.D. Vance wear eyeliner and all this other BS and stuff? I mean, really? We're heading into war with Americans about to be killed in a war in the Middle East. I mean, what is bigger than that right now? U.S. economy is in the toilet, and we don't know who's running the White House at all. Who's running the White House? Who's signing these executive orders? Who ordered all of these new aircraft carriers to head to the Middle East? Was it President Biden?
Or signed off on $35 million more for Israel? Or was it billion? We got it today.
Yeah, I don't know that it was billion.
35 million more for Israel, just at the very threat of Iran. Who wants that? Who's paying for that?
Who is? I don't know. I guess no one seems to care. I mean, I guess we're literally at a point now, like, where are the conservative men, like, in this country? Where are the men who can stand up right now and demand answers? I feel like they're just being walked on. They're just being walked on. Where are the men in this country? Stand up. Like, look what's happening at the southern border. Like, what is going on?
Sorry, it was $3.5 billion in foreign military financing to Israel. $3.5 billion. It's not $35 million and it's not $35 billion, but we are deciding to pay for that.
I mean, I'm exasperated. Who the hell's doing it? I mean, someone says, Miss Stacy in our Rumble chat says, money laundering cash that was assigned to Ukraine. It's the big money laundering scheme. I mean, who is running our country? As someone in the chat earlier said in a super chat, that Netanyahu is running the country. I mean, I'm sure they're getting advice from him on whoever is running the country in the executive branch right now is getting on the phone with and running everything through Tel Aviv. I'm sure they are. Of course they are. We just literally had the head of CENTCOM in Tel Aviv last week. Secretary of the Defense is also meeting with them regularly. So who's running things? I think it's being run out of Tel Aviv, it seems, right now. The Democratic primary, I think we're about to repeat, of 1968. When the assassination of Robert F. Kennedy led to this chaotic and undemocratic selection process at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, a repeat of Chicago. When Chicago Mayor Richard Daley essentially installed Hubert Humphrey as the nominee, even though he didn't win any primaries and voters didn't vote for him. But of course, Humphrey was also a pro-war candidate, a warmonger, intent on keeping the war in Vietnam going and burning and churning. So people didn't want Humphrey, but the warmongering Democratic Party and the elites did, of course. The deep state, the military-industrial complex. Sound familiar? Robert F. Kennedy Jr. believes it does.
Bob, does today's news affect your campaign moving forward?
Well, I think everything affects my campaign. I can't tell you how, and I try not to make predictions because I try not to do spin. But I think, as any of you can see, that we're living in a very, very dynamic situation now. It's unprecedented in American history. In fact, the closest thing to this, when I look back on American history, is the 1968 primaries where my father participated and was killed. And ironically, the convention, the Democratic convention this year is being held once again in Chicago. And in 1968, the Democratic Party tried to fix that convention with Mayor Daley basically anointing Hubert Humphrey, who was the DNC's choice, and there was chaos that erupted, and it destroyed the Democratic Party for a decade. So I think we have a lot to learn from that history. As I think Mark Twain said, that history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes, and it's really rhyming right now.
People in the chat are saying, like, Clay, what do you think we should do? Like, what? Right? Look, I'm like, where are the men? Where are the people that can organize and get together? We keep hearing about these mysterious. There's 100,000 individuals up in North Dakota that are ready to march on Washington and peacefully march on Washington and make demand. I don't know where these people are. I mean, the United States border is wide open, and remember there was supposed to be some massive truck convoy that was heading there.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to that? Like, whatever happened to? I don't know what. I was talking to a high-level conservative the other day, and he said conservatives are just getting walked all over right now. They're just sitting there waiting and watching.
Yes.
And I don't know what's happening, but Democrats, they're literally rolling over the country right now and allowing this to happen. We're going to see war happening in Chicago in the next few days. And, you're going to see the media spin on what's going to happen at the DNC and the tens of thousands of illegal Venezuelans and illegal immigrants that have taken over Chicago, and the native population of Chicago being pushed out, jobs lost, pushed out of shelters, and totally run down communities as a result of illegal immigrants pouring in there. It's really, really sad. As Kathy Richardson in our chat says, the real men that you're looking for, Clayton, have been fluorinated into submission. Yeah. All right.
Feels like it.
But right now, he's accused, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has accused the Democratic Party of rigging the nomination process, endorsing Kamala Harris, who is obviously monumentally unpopular. The mainstream media in the United States, as Natalie just pointed out in her piece, has basically rewritten her as this economic messiah, that she's going to somehow come in and save us from inflation. And, and the mainstream media, of course, is coronating her with a front page of Time magazine. The mainstream media is not pressing them into doing any sort of interviews, getting to the bottom of Tim Walz's record. What has she done on the border?
Yeah.
Jonathan Karl, who on ABC News was the one who on air said she was the border czar. And now he's saying, no, she was never the border czar. The mainstream media is rewriting this in real time.
But bit by bit, one economic policy at a time. That's absolutely right. So let us know what you think of that. We do have more news to get to. Also, I want to respond to, because we're talking about substance abuse, this comment that said Clayton looks baked. Clayton does not smoke marijuana. He has been trying to use contact lenses.
It's not going well.
And it's not going well for him. So I'm telling him to stop this.
No,
if you are a contact lens user, please let him know what your tips are, because he wants to get rid of the glasses.
Well, I hate glasses, and so I've been trying the 30 days, the 30-day ones. The doctor gave me the trial ones, and I've liked those. Then they gave me the dailies to try, so I've been trying the dailies.
Yeah.
And those that felt like heavier on my eye, and I can't figure it out. I don't know what I'm getting so frustrated. And then today she's like, "You look terrible. Stop wearing them." And I'm like, "No, I hate glasses. I hate having to constantly take them on and off the readers.
Glasses.
I'm losing them. I fall. If I'm bending over and I have them on my shirt, they fall into the gravel and they get all scratched. I hate it. So no, I'm not smoking pot or doing any other illicit drugs.
He's not smoking the doobie.
And
he is trying.
But I got drops.
Lenses.
I got like refresh eye drops and anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Just to be clear.
Yeah. Just had to let you know that Redacted is on no substances whatsoever other than coffee. So we're going to talk about whether or not the Olympic break dancer is indicative of liberal education, because this woman gained entree to cultural spaces by getting a PhD in breakdancing and then laying that on us, the whole world. We're going to talk about maybe those things shouldn't exist. Maybe you don't want to fund your kid to go get a breakdancing PhD. Maybe you don't want to do that. So hold that thought. Okay. Hold the thought. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at American Financing, because we've been talking all show about how the economy is in the toilet. It is hard for everybody. The stress of providing for a family and yourself is just overwhelming. Gas, groceries, whatever your monthly expenses are. If you're putting those things on a credit card, or you're just struggling to make ends meet, well, then maybe you want to look and doing what wealthy people do, which is leverage your assets. If you have equity in your home, you have money that can help you relieve the stress of living in today's economy. You just need to be taught how. That's where American Financing can help you. They can help get that monkey off your back. They can save their customers right now an average of $854 a month. Imagine what you could do with that room in your budget. They can teach you how. So give them a call at 866-890-8434, or head on over to americanfinancing.net/redacted. One more time, that's 866-890-8434, or call them at go to americanfinancing.net/redacted.
Jeffrey White says stoners over at Redacted.
No, look at me. I don't have any cotton mouth or red eyes or anything like that.
I don't know all the lingo. People are like, Clayton's smoking and I'm like, I don't even know the lingo. I'm like,
you like when I said doobie? That's like from the 60s.
You're smoking it down by the river, smoking a doobie.
I'm having fun with this because we are not potheads.
All right.
But we will speak for ourselves. Well, Liberal white ladies, please stop getting degrees in cultural studies and using it for cool points. You are embarrassing us. That was never more apparent than this weekend when Rachel Gunn, aka Raygun, scored 0 points in the first and last breakdancing competition at the Olympics. She was by far the worst breakdancer ever to be on an international TV, but she has a PhD in breakdancing, and she is a professor in break-in studies. So I guess she thought that gave her entree into these spaces. She actually graduated with a PhD thesis focusing on the intersectionality of gender and Sydney's breaking culture, Sydney, Australia, in 2017. Here is her bio, where she says that she is a professor of mass communication. And in fact, her biography does confirm that she is interested in the cultural politics of breaking. And in fact, she is not just theory, but also practical, because she has competed in all of these competitions in breaking. Now, I am not qualified to say whether what she did was respectful or not to Black or Hispanic culture. I am, however, qualified to say that she is indicative of white women trying to academic their way into cultural spaces for people of color. And I just want to ask, what does that add to the world? What does that give us? I say this as a white woman who has a master's degree in sociology. So girl, I know this from experience. Don't waste your time chasing liberal theories to save the world if maybe you're not saving the world. And I want to say that I know from experience how academia can lead to this narcissism and sense of false entree into these places that maybe you don't belong. Now, the irony, the extreme irony, is that I read her paper this morning about Olympics, breakdancing in the Olympics, and her main thesis, what she argued in this academic paper, was that breaking in the Olympics is problematic because it would allow hegemonic settler colonial structures to define breaking instead of what's the normal way of hip hop personhood being constantly remade and renegotiated. So what she's saying is that people who do breaking should sort of set the personhood of it for themselves. But when governing bodies get involved, those governing bodies form white male colonialism. Well, in fact, the governing body for breaking at the Olympics was born out of the World Dance Federation. The Olympics had originally wanted ballroom dancing, but then they thought, oh no, that's too anachronistic. So they went to this organization and they held qualifiers. Dance Sport Australia was just this small group of breaking enthusiasts because they had no other governing body. So, in fact, this is something that an actual dance professor at the University of Illinois had warned about in 2018. He wrote a petition against this organization in 2018 for their entree into the Youth Olympics in Argentina. And he said, they are a competitive ballroom dance organization, has no connection or credibility with any legitimate entity in the worldwide breaking community. He says that the IOC has allowed these imposters to oversee breaking at the Youth Olympics is a travesty and a scandal. It would be like the Badminton World Federation overseeing baseball, or the Federation for Equestrian Sport overseeing auto racing. It's polar opposite. He said this is immoral, illogical, and insulting to hundreds of thousands of B-boys and B-girls who live and breathe this culture. Now, if Raygun is an academic of breaking, shouldn't she have known this? Maybe she did, but she went ahead and did this anyway because she said she was there to show inclusivity. She had an inclusive kangaroo routine. She said she knew she wasn't the best dancer there, so she had to out dance them with creativity because she can't do those moves where you're on your head or holding yourself up or what have you. So she said she would show in all styles in an inclusive way. But she said, what I'm doing here, this quote, is I don't want it to be seen as a gatekeeper of hip hop. She argued that the meritocracy inherent in the male-dominated culture of breaking was exclusionary of people of all abilities, and they should all be welcome. Now, think about this for a second. She thinks it's a problem that mostly men who are good at breaking compete at breaking. This is a problem. Where is this a problem, I wonder? Her academic work showed her that this is a problem. So people who worked hard to be the best are excluded so that she could show us that she's not the best because she turned in more homework. This is what academia is telling her. This is academic fueled narcissism. The article now points out that she will be seen as the breakdancing face, but in a bad way that pokes fun of the sport that she warned about in her own paper. Now, I would argue that the meritocracy is at work here because she was the worst and she scored 0 points. So she came to show that you don't have to be the best, and she was indeed the worst, which I want to point out is not fair to athletes who came to win. These athletes who competed in, swimming, biking, running, they all came to be the best. This is a kind of funny meme. Thanks to all the athletes that made Australia proud, but not her. She didn't train the hardest, clearly. She tried to academic her way through this, and that's indicative, again, of a narcissism that's cancerous in academia right now. Or, as one person wrote on her own Instagram post, this is what's called toxic positivity. This is a term I had not heard before, but apparently it's big in certain circles, that just, you think too much of yourself. You think you should do things that you should not be doing because of this culture of toxic positivity. Author Adam Coleman said this about it. He is a Black author, and he said, you can't PhD your way into being supremely athletic, but academics and select leftists will try to defend it because it's a symbol of their bubble world. They value the attempt and not the ability, which is embarrassing. So again, my question to you is this indicative that progressive humanities degrees have gone too far? It's just the fact that there exists a PhD in breaking, should that exist? If you were a parent and your kid said, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get a PhD in breaking, you would be like, how does that make the world better? Why are you going to do that? And who's paying for that, right? That would be my take on it anyway. And in fact,
I would just point right to my kids. If my kids are like, Dad, spent all these years together, living at home, and I'm going to go to school to learn how to do breakdancing.
No, to study the culture of breakdancing.
Not even to do breakdancing.
Right.
Just to study the culture around breakdancing.
Now, okay, again, I have a degree in sociology. I have read things like this before, studies of certain cultural movements which serve a purpose. But her whole thesis is who participates is a problem, and that it's too much of a male hegemonic cultural domination, right? And so that's what she's trying to prove to the world, and she's just done that by getting the most attention for being the worst. So she's taken the air out of the room
and she
for
killed
real
it.
athletes.
And now she, I think, because of how bad this was and what a joke it was, she's now killed it at the Olympics.
Well, we don't know why the Los Angeles Games of 2028 has said that there won't be breaking. Maybe there was another reason.
It's because of Raygun.
Okay,
it's because of her little kangaroo dance.
Now, I just want to remind you of this quote from Woodrow Wilson, because this is actually the goal of progressive education. Did you know that he was the president of Princeton University before he was the president of the United States? And this quote, he said that his goal, he said, I have often said that the use of university is to make young gentlemen as unlike their fathers as possible. So again, this was universities in the 1900s defining their role in society as the role of shaping progressive young minds away from traditional thought. So Rachel Gunn thinks that there is a problem with representation in urban street dance and that she can be a solution. And she made a mockery of that community because of the bolstering of academia. Now, Grim, who works on our show, he said if she paid even more than $50 for that degree, she deserves to be ridiculed. I don't want to ridicule her. I want to ridicule academic narcissism and the fact that these degrees exist. Now, what are the market forces that keep these degrees from churning out on a young person's name, on a young person's diploma. It is not market forces. Nobody's saying, wow, I really have made so much money because I have this master's in intersexuality of gender and LGBTQI studies. No, nobody's making a killing. Nobody's making a fortune from getting those degrees. Why? It's tax dollars. It's government funding that continues to fuel this as an industry. And in fact, academics know it. They know that it's useless. They know that it's government funded. I came across this recently from Thomas Sowell's autobiography. He says that when he was at the Urban Institute, he was told this good news and bad news joke. He said, I forget what the good news is, but the bad news amongst economists was always the Ethnic Minorities Research Project has been funded. That's always the bad news. And this is what we get from it, is this terrible performance. Now, I'm not going to say I haven't benefited from this. I got a lot of comic relief out of the Rachel Gunn memes over the weekend. But again, what does it offer us as a society? Is it narcissists and academic uselessness? What could we otherwise do with this energy as a society? Could we leave Breaking alone? I just want to know what you think we could do with this energy. That's all I got for you. Again, I want to remind you that Clayton didn't want to hear this, but I felt the need to make this point about academia.
So it's
done.
I'm not trashing your degree, the one you got. But when I was in university, because I went twice, so in my early 20s, I was in university, and I was. My degree was technically, there is no pre-law, but I was pre-law. I was going into environmental law. So I had a split major in sociology and environmental chemistry. And I remember asking one of the sociology professors, I was like, so what do you, because I was genuinely curious in my early 20s, I didn't know much. I was like, what do you do with a sociology degree? Like, if you get that degree in sociology, what do you do with that? And their answer was like, well, most people become a professor of sociology. Yes. Right. Yeah. And I was like, the point of majoring in sociology is just to propagate more sociology majors. And I was like, that doesn't,
it's okay.
There has to be something else.
Well, that's Woodrow Wilson's dream then, right? Which is to take young men away from being like the hard, strong men that they were, and put them in universities, right? So, it's bad when Woodrow Wilson is advocating for this, one of the worst presidents in American history. So, that's exactly.
I will say my degree was in sociology with an emphasis in mass communication, and I studied journalism. So I'm doing that. And I feel like I take journalism from a sociological perspective, or at least I try. But yes, it also feeds into itself, and it is a self-replicating machine. And I'm not sure, Well,
I was always frustrated as a history. I had my degree in history, U.S. history, and I was always so frustrated by you would get this sort of bifurcation of like historiographies that are written by people that want, like David McCullough. He wants like millions of people to read his book on John Adams.
Right, they call that writing for pop culture.
Which is ridiculous, right? Because then you would have academics who would write their historiographies, their texts just for the academics. Like the 10 people that are going to read those books. And they always held themselves in such high regard, like Joseph Ellis. There's like this battle. And it always frustrated me. It's like, who are you writing for? You're writing for the 12 other academics who are then going to sit around and like shake their heads and like agree with you?
Sure.
Or you're going to write it for the masses of people who could actually learn something from your book on John Adams or, with the Civil War. I don't know. It's so
I think I did some good
elitist
work as a sociologist. I was one of the researchers on The Culture of Fear, which was a New York Times bestseller by Barry Glassner. But he was more of a like pop culture sociologist. And this comment in the chat and Rumble, this person, Jay Onstead, just said, sociology is useful, but where were they during the pandemic? Speaking up about the things that we know. So I'm not going to say that it's useless, but again, what does a degree in breaking get us? She didn't have a sociology degree. She has a mass communications degree, but maybe we should think this through. Maybe we should think this through before we get this again. So anyway, okay, that's what I got for you. Let me know what you think. I appreciate this discussion very much. Thank you for letting me have it. I needed to have it today.
I'm glad. I'm glad you got it out of your system. I'm glad you got Raygun out of your system.
Oh, it's not out of my system. There'll be more with that. That's the gift that keeps on giving.
I would love to see Raygun in the next Olympics. That's my goal. I would actually watch the next Olympics if Raygun were there.
No.
No, maybe not. I did watch the water polo, though. I played water polo, so I enjoyed watching that. I enjoyed watching some of the swimming. Yeah, that's about it this year. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. You can subscribe to the channel for free. It's totally free to do that. All you need to do is just click the follow button or subscribe, whether on Rumble or YouTube. Thank you guys so much. We're here live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to cover the craziness of this clown world together. We have no agenda, only the truth. We are not part of the Republican Party. We're not part of the Democratic Party. We are independent. And we don't take money from billionaires either. So thank you guys for making us an important part of your day. We really appreciate it. And we'll be back here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a great night, everyone. She's going to go watch more Raygun.